of the questions that came up was, what's the best way to remember words? And I guess this is something that everyone will think about when you're trying to learn a new language. I mean, not just Swedish, but any language. And how to, if there are any particular techniques that you can use to memorize words. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'll just say a little bit what I usually say to my students on Skype. And I think it's quite important that you do have some sort of system, because when you're learning a new language, you're exposed to a lot of new vocab. And, you know, it's fine to just, I mean, you just sit and you learn them and you see them and you, but of course you need to practice them, you need to remember them. So, I mean, I'm quite a fan of flashcards. I think flashcards are quite good. And there's a lot of flashcards, like there's apps that you can use.
We do use flashcards on the Quizlet, don't we?
Yeah, because that is a flashcard kind of app.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Quizlet I think is really good. And but I think the idea is really to, I mean, firstly take down all the new words that you learn. If you have a lesson, or if you're exposed to something, if you look in a book or whatever you're doing. And I think making a list of those words, of course. But then I think it's like, I think the worst thing you can do is to just make a list and then leave it for a week until next lesson, or
use it
whatever.
somehow.
You need to use it. You need to get your hands dirty, if that makes sense. So I think using them, and I mean, of course, there's like, I mean, a flashcard app or a flashcard, even if you just do physical flashcards, it's, you know, that will prompt you to remember it. And I think it's important probably to do it, to go through those new words quite soon after you've learnt them. So, I mean, ideally after a lesson, for example, you might want to go through them, I don't know, after the lesson, maybe half an hour after, or an hour after, at least that same day. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, there's like 25% you lose, I think, if you don't do anything after a lesson.
Yeah.
I think it's something like that. So.
Yeah, I've also heard, and I don't know, I don't have the scientific...
I think I got that number from you, actually.
Oh, was that me? Okay. Okay. So yeah, so I think the idea of trying to do it quite soon after the lesson, and then maybe again the next day, and then maybe again after a couple of days, but then not just looking at the words, but actually using them. And of course, this is a problem if you don't live in Sweden, you have no one to practice with. But I think one thing that you can do is at least write down some example sentences, right? So just
some people put up sticky notes.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
All over the place. So they have like the whole flat is full of sticky notes.
Yeah. And that
could be an idea, maybe.
Yeah. If there are physical sort of object things.
Yeah, if it's objects.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think having some kind of tools, some kind of maybe flashcards, if that's something that you like. And there's a lot of flashcard apps. I mean, we have a couple of lists on Quizlet, the Swedish Made Easy, but I know some other students, they use a flashcard app called Anki. I don't know if you've heard about that one. It's an open source one, ANKI, and that one's quite useful too.
It's called ANKI.
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 Yeah, like the Swedish name, Anki.
That's fantastic.
I know. So yeah, I think revisiting them soon after you've learnt them, and then use them, and even if you can't speak them or use them in conversation, at least like write down example sentences of them. It is a little bit boring, but it's useful.
It doesn't have to be boring.
No, that's true. It doesn't have
you can make fun sentences too.
That's true.
So
you can.
And I think that this might be one of the thing people remember from school, that I only wrote boring sentences.
Yeah.
I never give boring sentences to my students. They're always very, very far out or crazy.
Yeah.
Or just crazy. Yeah. So
just writing down crazy stuff. Well, it
helps you remember.
Yeah.